All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. A couple of new developments in the world of strongman news. Eddie Hall, Thor Bjornsson, and now Brian Shaw weighing in on the 501kg deadlift attempt to be made by Thor Bjornsson in less than a month now on May 2nd, 2020 in Thor's home gym in Iceland. So Brian Shaw brought an interesting perspective to the situation, mostly because he's pretty neutral. He doesn't really have a horse in the race, and he's not really invested in who holds the deadlift world record, so it's not really his place to care who holds it. So I respect his opinion. He's always seemed like a really nice guy, and he's coming from a pretty neutral place. And one of the things that he said in this video is he did say he thinks that if this is going to be attempted and done in a home gym and not in a competition, he said it needs to be counted as an unofficial world record. He said he loves Thor. He said he feels bad for him. And he says, obviously, this situation is outside of Thor's control. And if Thor wants to do this live stream and do this lift to give people something exciting to watch, he said that's great. That's fine. But if he does lift 501 kilograms, Brian said, in his opinion, it needs to be considered an unofficial world record and not the official world record. And he said he thinks it needs to be done in competition, and here's why. Brian wants to see the sport of strongman move forward. He wants to see it evolve and advance and get bigger and better. And he was talking about the history of the deadlift world record in strongman and how in the past it would be different kinds of bars, different kind of implements that were the same deadlift world record. It would be, sometimes those big bulbous, weights on the end, and sometimes those were used as the deadlift world record. So there was never really a set standard. This is what the deadlift world record has to be. This is what it has to be performed on. It has to be here. It has to be there. But in the past several years of the deadlift world record, it has gotten more and more specific to being on a deadlift bar with calibrated plates. That is the new standard for the world deadlift record, and that's kind of what the understanding is. So the way he phrased it is that the sport of strongman and these records have been constantly evolving and getting stricter and getting better and getting more legitimate as time goes on. And he basically made the argument that if we're going to keep going in this upward trajectory of making strongman more legitimate and making it more official and making the implements more legit, making the weights more legit, then if we were to start counting home gym lifts outside of competition as world records, he said we're opening Pandora's box, and it's a really slippery slope. And in his opinion, it's taking a huge step backwards from the legitimacy that strongman has gained over the past couple years. If we're going to start allowing home gym world records, he thinks it would be a step backward. He thinks for entertainment purposes, and if he wants to call it an unofficial world record, he said that's great. But Brian Shaw's opinion also is that this home gym lifting thing is not a world record scenario. And Brian brought up another good point as well. He said, a lot of the competitions where world records are set, there's multiple guys competing to get that world record. It's not just one guy who thinks he can do it. The point of the competition is there's other guys that think they can get that world record. So you have guys competing and pushing each other to get that world record, and that's what makes it that much more competitive and that much more interesting and that much more legitimate and entertaining. So I just wanted to put the Brian Shaw part in the beginning of this video because I thought he made some extremely good points in that video. And again, he's very neutral and not biased in the situation, so I did appreciate his perspective on this. Now, the second part of this video is going to be Eddie Hall's press release that he posted on his Instagram page in response to the Thor Bjornsson situation. So, let's read it. First, and most importantly, I would like to apologize for my first comment in my live YouTube Q&A where I said I didn't trust the Icelandics. A very poor choice of words when put on the spot. In reality, this couldn't be further from the truth. I was specifically referring to Thor and his entourage that accompany him to every competition. You'll not see this from the public's perspective on TV, but their attitude and behavior is generally intimidation and bullying, even if it's the smallest thing that doesn't go Thor's way. Talk about unsportsmanlike and unprofessional behavior. You've got it right here. At the World's Strongest Man 2017, Thor would not accept a certain referee's decision on a certain event. He called into disrepute the judging skills of a referee, which was then looked at by 3 referees, and the decision was given to the legend that is Magnus Vermagnusson, who stood his ground and has since been appointed the head referee at World's Strongest Man. But now Thor will take his word as golden to be the judge at his 501kg deadlift attempt. Talk about hypocrisy. He'll drag his name through the mud or place it upon a pedestal to suit his objective. So this is an argument I actually kind of like, because I like logical arguments. And I like when people really use just serious logic to make a point. And it's good logic that Eddie is using here. So if Hafthor is contesting the World's Strongest Man 2017 decision, and the judge at the 2017 World's Strongest Man is the same judge that's going to be judging his deadlift attempt in his gym, then that is hypocrisy to then say that this is going to be a legitimate deadlift, but I didn't believe this judge was legitimate at the 2017 World's Strongest Man. So to be fair, Eddie does have a logical point here. Thor can't say that the 2017 World's Strongest Man result in judging was unfair, and then in the same breath say that that same judge from that 2017 World's Strongest Man will be a legitimate world record judge if he does hit this deadlift in his home gym. It's kind of a hypocritical thing to say. Eddie goes on to say, because of the malicious rumors Thor and his team started, I've endured years of people questioning what is the crowning achievement of my career. He's referring to the 2017 World's Strongest Man. Well, guess what, pal? You break my record in your home gym with a bunch of your pals, you're going to get the same treatment. Absolutely no legitimate sport would acknowledge the world records broken out of competition, and you are undermining the very sport that you are claiming to champion. I genuinely look forward to having my record broken and seeing what is possible. I think you are probably the man to do it. There's no denying that, and I'll still shake your hands afterwards and say, well done. If you do it under the appropriate conditions, for the record, I feel the same way about the other records that are being attempted. It just doesn't feel right, and there are thousands of strength fans and athletes that feel the same way. Break a record in a comp where other people can contest it, and no one will have a negative word to say, including myself. Set an example. Back up your bull. Big love, the Beast. And then to give all three sides a perspective in one video, because Hafthor he hasn't really made a response ever since all the recent stuff that has come out. Basically, right now, Eddie has had the last word, I guess you could say. And really all Hafthor has done is reposted supportive fan messages on his Instagram story. But he did repost one story that I wanted to show you guys here, and it was from Jason Poston, who's an IFBB pro. And I actually talked to Jason a little bit in the DMs earlier today, and he was telling me some stuff about this situation as well. And basically along the same lines as what he says here in Hafthor's story, his opinion on the Eddie Hall versus Hafthor Bjornsson 501kg deadlift situation. And again, this is kind of a guy that's another neutral perspective, an outside perspective. He's not a strongman competitor. Kind of his perspective from the outside looking in. And I thought it was an interesting take on the situation, so I wanted to include that in this video as well.
So when I look at this record, I look at two different types of people. Someone who encourages people to break their records for the betterment of their sport or for the betterment of human mankind, versus somebody else who doesn't want anyone to break their records. They don't want... You guys, I'm excited about this this deadlift record, attempt to be broken, and it's going to happen this year. In fact, funny story, I ran into Eddie Hall, and I bet him $1,000 at the Columbus, Ohio airport that, because he said, he's like, Thor will not break my record. No way, it's not going to happen. And he was very confident about that. So I put my hand out, said, bet me $1,000 US. He said, okay. He bet $1,000 in front of everyone at the airport. And he was very cocky. He believed he didn't want Thor to break his record. He didn't think Thor would break his record. And that's the first time I've ever met Eddie Hall. So I'll just say this. If you guys were to come up to me and said, hey, do you think a type 1 diabetic male will ever get to Olympia like you did? My first reaction would be, well, I hope so. I hope that someone does. It's not necessarily a record, but I'm the first and the only male to ever make it to Olympia as a type 1 diabetic, and it wasn't easy. But it's that encouragement. I want someone else to do it. But if someone breaks your record, okay, and if it happens, you get back to work and you try to break their record. That's what makes sports fun. Not the drama, not the crap, not the immaturity. Anyone to take away their shine. They don't want to be second at the deadlift, and they don't want to work to try to beat another record. So records are made to be broken, guys. There's a lot of different types of people in this world.
So with that, that's going to wrap it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did, in fact, enjoy it. Again, I'm not taking any sides. I do think it's going to be extremely entertaining to see Half Thor do this. I think this live stream is going to be fun. It's going to be cool. In my personal opinion, I do believe it's kind of hard to call something an official, legitimate world record if it is done outside of competition. Now, all the other drama outside of that, I can't really weigh in. I don't know too much about what went on behind the scenes at the 2017 World's Strongest Man. I don't know too much about what's gone on behind the scenes between Eddie Hall and Half Thor Bjornsson, or Half Thor Bjornsson and even Brian Shaw. So I don't want to speculate too much or give any inaccurate opinions, but I do want to say I have tremendous respect for all of these men. Half Thor, Brian, Eddie. They've all won the World's Strongest Man. They've all been the strongest man on the planet at one point or another. And regardless of all this drama, at the end of the day, these are three of the strongest men to ever live. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Whose side are you on with the 501kg deadlift debate? And as always, please subscribe to my channel if you have not subscribed already. Smash that thumbs up button. And as always, Nick Strength and Power, signing out.